Hi Spookies! Today we're talking about the scariest topic of all, tight hip flexors. These are a pretty common affliction to many of us for a wide variety of reasons, whether it's through repetitive motion like running or biking, protracted periods of sitting or even standing, having imprecise form during exercise, a slump posture, or pretty much everything. Tight hip flexors are characterized by that taut pulling sensation at the front of the body, and they're typically accompanied by an anterior pelvic tilt, which in the mirror looks a little bit like a small arch in the low back. More anatomically put, the top of the pelvis is more forward than the bottom, aka tilted, as opposed to neutral when they more or less stack one on top of the other. Muscularly though, when hip flexors are tight and contracted, their pelvic pull forward results in a chain reaction throughout the body, pulling up and tightening the hamstrings and then simultaneously reducing the core and glute engagement, which over time can lead to weaknesses in both the core and the glutes. Tight hips are kind of uncomfortable and they might even feel pretty pinchy if we stay in that flex position for too long, but the reformer is actually a super helpful way, not only in loosening up some of that tightness, but also strengthening all of the right muscles to get into a more optimal relationship with the hip flexors, aka put them on the bench while the other muscles pick up the slack. 3 exercises I love to stretch my hips and strengthen the supporting framework include, first, hip extension, which is a lovely named exercise. When the hip's at 90 degrees, it's in flexion or in that contracted state, aka tight hip flexors. When we lengthen or stretch these out, we're in extension. So hip extension here, we get a nice unilateral hip stretch while also building core and glute strength on both sides of the body. And one of my favorite postural strengtheners and hip extender exercises is a variation on long stretch. You can do this one on the knees or on the toes, but I actually prefer it on the knees as it provides a wider range for extension of the hips than a plank would. This is a really nice move to come into a kneeling down stretch with an untuck of the chin and a spinal extension, think similar to a back bend for good measure. And then finally, a kneeling hip stretch, or sometimes called hip flexor stretch 1 in certain repertoires. One foot is on the floor, and the movement and tension of the carriage of the back leg provides a really nice incremental stretch that feels super good with a little bit of movement up and down. All these exercises are really nice considerations to add in after you've done some flexion in the body, such as lunges, where you're bending that hip into 90 degrees to counterbalance all of that strain on the hips. Okay, stay scary. I love you. Bye.